as the biggest problem with the Reform Party right now?
Well, you've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem. I mean, this is not exactly the people you want in your party.
President Biden has finally spoken out about all those campus anti-Israel protests, and critics say he did exactly what he condemned former President Trump for saying about Charlottesville.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
I think there's blame on both sides. You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Wow. I mean, if you want to know whether or not Biden is reading Trump's playbook, I mean, he criticizes him for one thing, then he turns around and does exactly what he criticized him for. Interesting. We're going to dig into it. Great debate next.
Do you condemn the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses?
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians.
Well, people who are analyzing his words and his politics are calling the president's both sides moment unbelievable. You heard him condemn anti-Semitic campus protests, but before quickly defending the Palestinian cause, some of that Palestinian cause on the ground here in New York has been pro-Hamas. Remember, Biden has repeatedly gone after former President Trump for comments like this after the deadly 2017 white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. Watch.
I think there's blame on both sides. You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
With those words, the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime.
So while he's president, since he just said basically the same thing, is the threat greater than any other point in our history under his watch? Is that what he's going to say? Jackie Heinrich is at the White House. Jackie.
Well, Harris, the president still has not taken it upon himself to speak out against these anti-Semitic protests that broke out on college campuses this weekend, forcing Columbia University to hold classes remotely. Speaking yesterday, Biden made no mention of any of this in his remarks. He has tweeted, by the way, 25 times since Saturday, including 9 times about climate. No mention of any of this. There was a strong White House statement over the weekend, but it was written by the deputy press secretary. And at yesterday's event, as you just heard, Biden issued a both sides condemnation, but only when prompted by Fox when we shouted a question at him. In his remarks yesterday at that Earth Day event, he was with the progressive Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She framed the protests as peaceful, and Biden appeared to affirm that view. Listen.
It is especially important that we remember the power of young people shaping this country today, of all days, as we once again witness the leadership of those peaceful student-led protests on campuses like Columbia, Yale, Berkeley, and many others.
Representative Ocasio-Cortez in New York, you know, I learned a long time ago, listen to that lady.
When we asked him yesterday, the president declined to weigh in on whether Columbia University's president should resign. He said he needed to find out more about that. Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman, though, did not mince words, posting on X, "I fully agree with the White House. These protests are anti-Semitic, unconscionable, and dangerous. Add some tiki torches, and it's Charlottesville for these Jewish students." President Biden has said many times the white supremacy on display 4 years ago in Charlottesville was the reason that he ran for president. But now that he is president, so far, silence from the top on this particular issue. Harris.
Yeah, I would imagine they're going to try to do the walk back on that. We'll cover every second of it. Thank you, Jackie. Let's bring in a great debate now. Targeted Victory Executive Vice President Matt Gorman is here, and former Biden campaign surrogate Kevin Walling. And gentlemen, we may, and I'm going to ask my team while we're talking about this, can we see those live pictures of what's going on at Columbia University right now? They'll pop them up when they get them. But in the meantime, I want to talk about this both sides comments. There it is. Okay, so we're rocking a new day here, and the protesters have now gotten back on the Columbia campus. The campus is allowing this. This is private property. They've told police to keep a perimeter around the school, around the college, but not to come on unless they call. Jewish students like the one I had here on set with me earlier this hour say they're too afraid to go back to school. They're going to take advantage of the hybrid situation, and it's a day-by-day call of whether or not they feel safe enough to go on campus. No cops. They do have the Columbia safety agents, with young David telling me just earlier this hour, they don't make him feel safe. So we'll see what happens. Also, there's a movement afoot. They're demanding some of the protesters to eliminate Columbia's safety agents. So there'll be nobody. They'll just own the campus they can occupy. That's what's going on right now. Now let's get back to Biden's both sides comments, because it fits this conversation. What he's saying is that the Jewish students who are being made to fear for their lives are basically the equivalent, both sides should be heard, to the people who are occupying at least this university and threatening to kill people with their words like, we're with Hamas. Matt.
You're right. I mean, he talks a lot about Charlottesville. Why was the impetus for him to run for president? And what you see here is that same exact thing. You're right. I mean, we all know the reason why, too. He's scared of his political base. He knows what it means if he takes a strong stance in places like Michigan. So you see this equivocating. You see this, both sidesing, all the excuses. And let's remember, when a Republican did this, you had reporters chasing Republican members of Congress down the halls for their reaction. I don't see that same reaction for Democrats. You have Fetterman taking it proactively, which I appreciate, but it's completely the same sort of comment, but the media reaction is totally different.
Kevin, why is that?
Well, Harris, number one, I think the president has been very clear since taking office that he condemns any kind of hate, especially anti-Semitism. The president traveled in the hours after the horrific massacre of October 7th to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Israelis. And to your point, Harris has gotten some flack from the left side of my party, Arab American Democrats, Palestinian American Democrats, for his lockstep support of the state of Israel and his support for Jewish Americans. It goes back to the 1970s with Golda Meir. He talked in that clip that you just played condemning those protests on those college campuses. That interview that you had with David was so powerful to hear the voices of those students and what they're going through.
But not powerful enough to get the president to speak on their behalf. Not powerful enough for Columbia University to listen to them and to rectify the situation and make it safer. But I want to just quickly get back to this issue that Matt was pointing out. The equivalency between, what Biden said then was that by saying both sides, that you're basically equivocating them. Is that what Biden is also doing when he says both sides? The Jewish students who are frightened and the protesters down on the ground who are threatening them, oh, they're good people on both sides. I mean, what hypocrisy on the part of Joe Biden?
Yeah, Harris, I don't think it's a comparison with regards to what Donald Trump said in the wake of Charlottesville. He was praising those people with tiki torches that came out of the woods.
When you don't condemn people who say that they are with Hamas,
he's not standing with Hamas.
Like
absolutely not,
all right.
Harris.
Matt, you get the last word on this, and then we're going to move forward.
He's drawing attention to the cause
of the Palestinians.
It's very simple.
Just say you condemn anti-Semitism, you can condemn the threats, period. You don't need to then add in another rejoinder. Just make the statement, period. Those Jewish students are suffering right now on campus under the threats.
All right, we'll move to this.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
It's not about justice. It's not about agenda. It's not about mobilizing people. It's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.